Most people don't get betrayed because they're foolish. They get betrayed because they were open in a world that rewards calculation. You were taught that trust is a virtue, that giving your heart freely makes you noble, that doubting others makes you negative. But no one taught you this. In a world driven by self-interest, blind trust is not virtue. It's exposure. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Not everyone who supports you publicly protects you privately. Not everyone who says, "I'm here for you," intends to stay. And the harsh truth is this: betrayal is not rare. It is predictable. The problem isn't that fake people exist. The problem is that you haven't been trained to see them clearly. You don't need paranoia. You need perception. You don't need to harden your heart. You need to sharpen your awareness. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. Because once you learn how people truly operate, once you understand that loyalty often bends to advantage, you stop being surprised. And when you stop being surprised, you stop being vulnerable. Today, you'll learn how to move through a world of masks without losing your peace. How to anticipate betrayal without becoming bitter. How to protect yourself without losing your humanity. By the end of this, you won't look at people the same way. And that begins with the first rule of power. 1. Never trust completely. One of the most dangerous mistakes you can make is trusting too quickly. We are conditioned to believe that openness builds connection, that sharing builds loyalty, that vulnerability creates safety. But here's the reality. Most people are loyal to their interests first, and to you second. And when those interests shift, loyalty often shifts with them. The real mistake isn't trusting. It's assuming others think the way you do. You help someone, believing they would do the same. You protect someone's secrets, believing they would protect yours. You defend someone in their absence, believing they would defend you. But people don't operate based on your code. They operate based on their advantage. That doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. The disciplined mind understands this early. You don't give full access to someone you barely know. You don't hand over your plans before you've observed their character. You don't mistake charm for integrity. Imagine this. You start a new job. Someone is friendly, supportive, even encouraging. Within weeks, you share your ideas, your ambitions, maybe even your frustrations with management. Then one day, your idea is presented in a meeting, but not by you. It was never about friendship. It was about positioning. The betrayal hurts not because it was invisible, but because you ignored the signs. Controlled trust is different from blind trust. You observe first. Test slowly. You reveal in layers. The wise do not build walls. They build filters. Before sharing your plans, watch how they speak about others' plans. Before exposing your weaknesses, notice how they react to someone else's. Trust is not given in one motion. It is earned in increments, because the cost of naive loyalty is always higher than the cost of cautious observation. And if you fail to see that, you'll mistake the mask for the face. Which brings us to the next layer, because some people don't betray you directly. They perform. 2. The mask of hypocrisy. Not everyone who praises you respects you. Some people don't attack from the front. They approach with warmth. They compliment you in public. They laugh with you in groups. They speak softly, agree easily, and seem supportive. But support is not measured by tone. It's measured by consistency. Hypocrisy is not loud. It is strategic. The hypocrite doesn't oppose you openly. They position themselves close enough to observe, to gather, to adapt. They do not want your friendship. They want your proximity, because proximity gives them access. Access to your ideas, access to your vulnerabilities, access to your blind spots. The most dangerous opponent is not the one who declares hostility. It's the one who performs loyalty. Look carefully. Do they celebrate you the same way when you're not present? Do they defend you when there's no benefit in doing so? Or does their loyalty depend on the audience? Many people are skilled at appearing virtuous. They say what sounds right. They behave correctly in front of authority. They adjust their personality depending on who is watching. That adaptability may look social. Often, it's calculation. The disciplined observer does not judge by words. They judge by patterns. Does this person speak poorly about others when it's convenient? Do they shift opinions based on who holds power in the room? Do they offer help that creates subtle obligation? A hypocrite often leaves small traces. Backhanded compliments, praise with a condition attached, encouragement that feels slightly undermining. You're doing great for someone in your position. That's impressive. I didn't expect that from you. They smile, but there's tension underneath. And here is the rule. If someone regularly speaks badly about others in private, you are not exempt. You are simply not yet the topic. The wise do not become paranoid. They become observant. You don't confront hypocrisy immediately. That only drives it underground. You reduce exposure. You limit information. You stop offering emotional depth to someone who hasn't proven depth themselves. Let time reveal character. Inconsistency cannot hide forever. The mask eventually slips, but only if you are watching. And when you start watching carefully, something else becomes clear. Some people don't use charm. They use provocation. They try to pull you into their terrain, which leads to the next lesson. 3. Don't fight in the mud. When someone cannot defeat you with substance, they try to provoke you emotionally. Not every attack is direct. Not every threat comes openly. Some people don't argue to win. They provoke to destabilize. A sarcastic remark disguised as humor. A passive-aggressive comment in a meeting. An indirect insult delivered with a smile. They are not trying to prove a point. They are trying to trigger you. Because once you react, the battlefield shifts in their favor. Provocation is bait, and most people take it. When you explode in anger, when you defend yourself impulsively, when you raise your voice to match theirs, you've already lost terrain. Not because you were wrong, but because you surrendered control. The calculated individual understands something most people ignore. The one who controls their response controls the situation. A provocateur feeds on reaction. They want you emotional. They want you defensive. They want you loud. Because once you lose composure, they can label you unstable, aggressive, overreactive. They step back. You look exposed. That is the trap. Imagine this. You're in a professional setting. Someone makes a subtle remark designed to diminish you. They look at you sideways, waiting for your irritation, waiting for your counterattack. Instead, you pause. You don't rush to defend. You hold eye contact calmly. You redirect to the task at hand. No emotional shift, no visible agitation. What just happened? You denied them leverage. You refused to enter the mud. You forced them to stand alone in their behavior. That is power. The disciplined mind understands you are not obligated to answer every comment. You are not required to correct every fool. You do not need to prove composure. You demonstrate it. Silence, when chosen strategically, is not weakness. It is restraint. And restraint unsettles those who depend on chaos. This does not mean you never speak. It means you choose your moment. If a response is necessary, it comes measured, deliberate, controlled. Never from wounded pride. Never from impulsive ego. Because emotion is predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. The one who stays centered cannot be dragged. And the moment someone realizes they cannot provoke you, they lose interest. Or they escalate. Which is why awareness alone isn't enough. You must also understand balance. Observation without strength invites exploitation. Strength without strategy invites traps. Which brings us to the next lesson. 4. The fox and the lion. If you are only intelligent, you will be tested. If you are only strong, you will be outmaneuvered. To survive among calculated people, you must learn to be both. The fox sees the trap. The lion ends the threat. Most people lean too heavily to one side. They either observe everything and act on nothing, or they react with force before understanding the terrain. Both approaches fail. The fox represents perception. It watches patterns, it studies behavior. It listens more than it speaks. It notices how someone treats people they don't need. It observes who shifts tone when power enters the room. It tracks inconsistencies quietly. The fox does not reveal what it knows. It gathers, it waits, it anticipates. But perception alone is not protection. If you are always observing and never decisive, people will mistake patience for weakness. That's where the lion enters. The lion represents presence, clear boundaries, direct communication, unshakable posture, not loudness, not aggression, certainty. When someone crosses a real line, not a minor irritation, not a wounded ego moment, but a genuine violation of respect, that is when the lion moves. Not explosively, not emotionally, decisively. Imagine this. A friend repeatedly disguises subtle insults as jokes. You observe the pattern. You do not react the first time or the second. You watch. You confirm. Then, when the pattern is undeniable, you speak calmly. I've noticed your comments often target me. If it continues, I won't engage anymore. No anger, no performance, just clarity. And if it continues, you withdraw. Not dramatically, not publicly, simply, firmly. That is the lion. Balanced power. The mistake many make is becoming only one. If you are only a fox, people exploit your restraint. If you are only a lion, people bait your reactions. But when you combine the two, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is protection. You observe like a fox. You act like a lion. Not everyone deserves your force, but everyone should recognize you have it. This balance creates something rare, not fear, respect. And once respect is established, exploitation becomes expensive. But even strength and strategy are not enough if you misunderstand one crucial thing. Many betrayals don't happen because you are weak. They happen because you are good. 5. Good people must protect themselves. Many people who get betrayed are not foolish. They are generous. They give without calculating. They forgive without measuring. They show up without hesitation. And in a world driven by advantage, that kind of openness attracts two types of people: the grateful and the opportunistic. The problem is not kindness. The problem is kindness without boundaries. When you are always available, always understanding, always willing to sacrifice your comfort, you train people to take you for granted. Not because they hate you, but because you never showed them where the line is. There is a quiet danger in believing that being good guarantees being respected. It doesn't. Respect is not awarded for generosity alone. It is granted when generosity is paired with strength. If you never say no, your yes loses value. If you never withdraw, your presence becomes expected. And expected value is easily exploited. Consider this. You are the one who listens, the one who helps, the one who gives time, energy, support. But when you need something, silence, or excuses, or delayed responses, and instead of recalibrating, you rationalize. They're just busy. They're going through something. I don't want to seem selfish. Meanwhile, resentment grows quietly. Here is the difficult truth. Compassion without discernment becomes self-betrayal. Protecting yourself does not make you cruel. It makes you disciplined. You are not obligated to overextend for those who underdeliver. You are not required to carry emotional weight that others refuse to lift. You are allowed to measure reciprocity, not in a transactional way, but in a balanced way. Observe who shows up when there is nothing to gain. Observe who remains steady when you are not at your best. Observe who respects your time without guilt manipulation. Good people often fear setting limits. They worry about appearing harsh. But clarity is not harshness. It is structure. If someone withdraws from your life because you enforced a boundary, they were not attached to you. They were attached to your access. Strengthening your boundaries does not diminish your kindness. It refines it. You can still be generous, but now you are selective. You can still care deeply, but now you are aware of patterns, because once you understand this, you begin to notice something else. Betrayal rarely appears out of nowhere. It announces itself quietly, in small behaviors, in repeated inconsistencies, in subtle signals. The signs were there. You just didn't want to see them, which leads us directly to the next lesson. 6. Recognize the traitor. Early betrayal rarely begins with a knife. It begins with a pattern. The problem is not that there were no signs. The problem is that you ignored them. Most betrayals are preceded by small inconsistencies, subtle shifts in behavior that feel slightly off, but not severe enough to confront. And because you value harmony, you explain them away. You give the benefit of the doubt. You rationalize the discomfort. You override your intuition. But patterns don't lie. The first signal is often this: they speak negatively about others in your presence. It may sound harmless, entertaining, even bonding, but understand the principle. Anyone who shares someone else's secrets with you is rehearsing how they will share yours later. It is not intimacy, it is exposure training. The second signal: they are present when you are rising and distant when you are struggling. When you succeed, they celebrate loudly. When you fail, they disappear quietly. This is not coincidence, it is convenience. The opportunist stays near advantage and withdraws from vulnerability. The third signal: compliments that feel slightly poisoned. You're doing well. I didn't expect that. That's impressive. Must have been luck. On the surface, praise. Underneath, comparison. It is a subtle attempt to maintain psychological superiority. And then there is the fourth signal: discomfort with your growth. Watch closely when you evolve, when you improve your discipline, when you become more focused, when you say no more often. Do they adapt with you, or do they subtly resist? Some people liked you better when you were accessible, not when you were aware. The disciplined observer understands this. Traitors are rarely dramatic. They are inconsistent. They leak intention through behavior. And the mistake most people make is confronting too early. You don't need to accuse. You need to adjust. Reduce access. Limit information. Slow the emotional investment. Observe what happens when you stop feeding the dynamic. The traitor reveals themselves when advantage disappears. And once you see the pattern clearly, you have two options: resent it or learn from it. Because every betrayal teaches something about perception, which brings us to the next level. The moment when pain stops being a wound and becomes training. 7. Let pain train you. Betrayal hurts, not only because of what was done, but because of who did it. The disappointment cuts deeper than the action itself. You replay the conversations, you revisit the moments. You ask yourself the same question: how did I miss it? Pain, if left unmanaged, turns into bitterness. But pain, when examined, becomes instruction. The difference is not in the event, it's in the response. Many people use betrayal as justification to harden. They close off, they distrust everyone. They replace openness with suspicion. That feels like strength. It isn't. That is reaction. Real strength is different. Real strength asks, what did this reveal about me? Where did I ignore my intuition? Where did I overextend? Where did I attach too quickly? Pain exposes your blind spots, not to shame you, to refine you. If someone lied to you repeatedly, the lesson is not never trust again. The lesson is trust in layers. If someone manipulated your generosity, the lesson is not never help. The lesson is help with boundaries. The disciplined mind refuses to waste pain. Instead of replaying the betrayal emotionally, you analyze it strategically. You remove self-pity. You remove revenge fantasies. You replace them with awareness. Every disappointment teaches you something about pattern recognition. Every deception sharpens your perception. Every loss strengthens your internal stability, if you choose that direction. The weak ask, "Why me?" The trained ask, "What does this teach?" You were not destroyed. You were corrected. The world did not target you uniquely. It revealed a vulnerability, and now that vulnerability is visible. That is growth. But pain can also create attachment. Attachment to validation. Attachment to people. Attachment to outcomes. And if you do not learn detachment, you remain controllable, which leads directly to the next lesson. 8. The power of detachment. The easiest way to control someone is to attach them emotionally, not with chains, with dependency. If your stability depends on someone staying, they have leverage. If your confidence depends on someone approving you, they have leverage. If your peace collapses when someone withdraws, they have leverage. Detachment is not indifference. It is independence. It is the quiet understanding that you can appreciate someone without needing them to define you. The mistake many make after betrayal is swinging to extremes. Either they cling tighter next time, or they detach completely and become cold. Both are reactions. True detachment is balanced. You enjoy relationships, but you are not owned by them. You value connection, but you are not destabilized by loss. Imagine this. Someone leaves your life unexpectedly. The first response is shock, then emptiness, then fear of the void. But eventually, something shifts. You realize you are still standing, still functioning, still capable. That realization is power. Detachment means you no longer give anyone the authority to determine your internal state. You can love without clinging. You can invest without surrendering identity. You can walk away without collapsing. This is dangerous to manipulators, because manipulation depends on need. If you do not fear losing someone, you cannot be threatened with abandonment. If you do not crave validation, you cannot be controlled by approval. The disciplined mind practices this quietly. You ask yourself, if this disappears tomorrow, who am I? If your answer feels unstable, that is where work is needed. Detachment is training yourself to remain centered regardless of external shifts. You are not reducing your humanity, you are strengthening your foundation. Because once you stop needing people to stay, you start choosing who deserves to. And when you choose, instead of cling, your movements become intentional. This leads to another powerful shift. When you detach properly, you no longer feel compelled to explain your exits, which brings us to the next lesson. 9. Leave without explaining. Not every departure requires a speech. Not every distance requires justification. And not every silence needs to be clarified. One of the strongest positions you can hold is the ability to walk away without noise. Most people struggle with this. They feel compelled to explain, to defend their decision, to make sure they are understood. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The people who truly valued you do not need an explanation, and the people who didn't will not accept one anyway. Explaining yourself often keeps you entangled. You defend your boundaries. They argue, you clarify. They distort, you repeat. They deflect. Now you are back in the dynamic you were trying to escape. Silence, when chosen deliberately, ends cycles. It denies further negotiation. It removes you from the emotional courtroom. Imagine this. You've tried communicating. You've addressed the issue calmly. You've expressed your needs clearly. Nothing changes. At that point, continuing to explain is not clarity. It is overextension. So you step back. You reduce contact. You stop volunteering updates. You stop offering access. No announcement, no dramatic exit, no final declaration, just adjustment. When they ask, "Why are you distant?" you do not launch into a defensive monologue. You answer briefly, or not at all, because your energy is no longer available for debate. The disciplined individual understands distance is a boundary, not a punishment, and boundaries do not require consensus. Some people will attempt to guilt you. You've changed. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. These statements are not requests for clarity. They are attempts to regain influence. When you stop explaining yourself excessively, you remove leverage. You are not obligated to justify your peace. You are not responsible for managing someone else's discomfort with your growth. Walking away quietly is not weakness. It is resolution. It signals something important. You no longer require their understanding to maintain your center. And once you reach that point, you are close to the final transformation. Because there is one last mistake people make after betrayal. They become hard, cold, emotionally sealed. But that is not evolution. Real evolution looks different, which brings us to the final lesson. 10. Become stronger, not colder. After betrayal, the instinct is simple. Harden, shut down, trust no one, feel nothing. It seems logical. If openness hurt you, remove openness. If attachment made you vulnerable, eliminate attachment. But that reaction creates a different kind of weakness. When you become cold, you are still reacting. You are allowing someone else's behavior to reshape your character. That is not strength. That is injury, disguised as power. True strength is controlled. It does not shut down emotion. It governs it. There is a difference between becoming impenetrable and becoming numb. Impenetrable means you are aware, stable, and self-contained. Numb means you are avoiding feeling altogether. The first is discipline, the second is defense. Many people, after being deceived, decide, "I'll never care again." But care is not the enemy. Naivety is. The solution is not to close your heart. It is to filter access. The solution is not to distrust everyone. It is to trust deliberately. You do not need to punish the world for the mistakes of a few. You refine your perception. You strengthen your boundaries. You slow your attachments, and you remain capable of connection. That balance is rare, because most people swing to extremes, either overly open or emotionally barricaded. But the disciplined individual learns something deeper. You can be warm without being weak. You can be firm without being cruel. You can forgive without reopening doors, strength without bitterness, awareness without paranoia, presence without dependence. That is evolution. When someone expected you to collapse, you stood. When someone expected you to become cold, you became measured. When someone expected retaliation, you chose elevation. That is power. You are not trying to defeat others. You are trying to remain centered, because the real victory is not forcing respect. It is becoming untouchable emotionally, not because you are numb, but because you are disciplined. You were not broken. You were trained. You were not destroyed. You were refined. And now you move differently, calmer, slower, more observant. Not harder, stronger. You don't need to live in suspicion. You don't need to become cynical. You don't need to harden your heart to survive. You only need to become aware. The world will not stop containing self-interest. Masks will not disappear. People will continue to act according to advantage. But now, you move differently. You observe before trusting. You speak after thinking. You detach without collapsing. You leave without explaining. You grow without becoming bitter. That is maturity, not paranoia, not cruelty, not emotional withdrawal, clarity. If something in this message resonated, it means you've experienced it. The disappointment, the betrayal, the subtle manipulation. And instead of letting it make you smaller, you chose to understand it. That alone sets you apart. You are not here to live guarded. You are here to live prepared. Prepared without fear, grounded without rigidity, strong without losing your humanity. Let others move impulsively. Let others react emotionally. Let others stay asleep to patterns. You stay centered. You stay observant. You stay sovereign. If this perspective helped you see something more clearly, subscribe to this channel. We don't build surface confidence here. We build internal authority. And if you believe more people should learn to move with this kind of awareness, share this with someone who needs clarity, not comfort. And if you're committed to becoming stronger, not colder, leave a quiet mark in the comments. I stay aware. Not for me, for yourself. Because the greatest victory isn't forcing others to respect you. It's reaching the point where no one can pull you off your center. And once you reach that point, you don't need to fear betrayal. You're already prepared for it.